personally feel there's a disconnect between yourself and the locker room, the players?
I don't.
Brandon, do you expect to be the coach here tomorrow?
I don't know that.
Do you think you should be?
Yes.
Why?
I know that what I've done here for 3 years, and I know what I put into this, and I know that we're capable of going. I know the type of coach that I am. I believe in myself. But again, this isn't about me. This is about a group that's hurting in there. We got to get some rest, and we got to get ready for Buffalo.
What could you have done differently in preparation to get these guys better prepared to play tonight?
Everything. I didn't do anything well enough to get us ready to play tonight.
And so if that's the case, then why should you be the coach if that's
games like this happen in the NFL to every coach that's ever coached in this league. You can look at any great coach that's ever coached in the league. Sometimes games like this happen, and I don't need to retrace history, but it's part of sports. Sometimes there are games where it doesn't go right, none of it, and you got to put it behind you and you got to move on to the next thing.
Woo. That was last night after the game, Reeta. And I think today we were all on Staley watch, and the news came down. He is in fact out, no longer the Chargers head coach. Reeta Hubbard, the NFL chick, welcome. Thank you. Please help me dig into this. This day has turned into such a busy news day, which is not so normal on a Friday. But
a Friday before a holiday. On top of that, a Friday before a holiday. Listen, everything that he said was cute. I mean, those are things that you're supposed to say, I guess. So I'm not mad at him for saying that. But when you get skull dragged the way that the Chargers got skull dragged last night, it is
63 points, Reeta.
Against a Raiders team. Against the Raiders team, Nat, that scored 0 points just 4 days ago against the Vikings.
Exactly.
We saw a 3-0 win of the Vikings against the Raiders on Sunday, and you're telling me that on a short week, okay, that they can just muster up 63 points. That's a lot. And so, look, also the GM got fired as well. And honestly, look, that probably should have happened anyway, because I don't even know who the backup quarterback was last night. I don't know where he came from. And clearly the way he played, he didn't know where he came from either. He was just there collecting checks, and good for him, right? But ultimately, this had to happen. I really felt like that this was a situation that should have probably been taken into account after the playoff game against Jacksonville last year. You're up 27 points and you find a way to just fumble that season away in a second half of a playoff game, to me, says a lot about coaching and what it is that you're doing. Then you go into this season that he was brought in, Brandon Staley, to be this defensive great coach, right, from the Los Angeles Rams. Well, the Chargers were one of the worst defenses in the National Football League. And then when you look at the talent that they had, you can't understand how they were, because they had Joey Bosa. Although Joey Bosa has not played in a few weeks, he has been dealing with an injury, but he played for majority of the season prior to. Then they had Khalil Mack. They got him in a trade. Then they had on the back end, I believe they have Asante Samuel Jr., which we've seen his father play numerous years. And they had James at the safety position, Derwin James. So I don't understand how this defense with the guys that I just told you about was one of the worst in the NFL, which says a lot about you as a coach who is supposed to be a great defensive mind. So if I was Dean Spanos, the owner of the Chargers, I would have let him go after last year's playoff debacle. That would have been enough for me. But it allowed him to have an opportunity to, come back this year, see if they could bring this magic back. And plot twist, the magic did not come back. And in fact, you were worse than last year, which is embarrassing because Justin Herbert is being wasted at this point.
For sure. I mean, the only thing that surprised me, yes, this is cute. You thank them, all that. We know you got to go through the formalities.
No, but did you read what he said?
Where they're like, the first one, like, we parted ways. The first little
my favorite line in this: doing nothing in the name of continuity was not a risk I was willing to take. That is a slap in the face. Okay, whoa, that was a line.
Doing
okay,
nothing in the name of continuity.
That was well played, okay? So that was a nice little letter until you got to that one part, and I was like, woo, it got hot in here real fast. So
Yes. Well, listen, I don't think this came as a surprise to anyone. The only shock is that it took this long, really, right? And so, look, you have a talent in Justin Herbert who is there, and probably because of this coach, some people may not think he's as great as he is. Some do think he's really great, and just not being properly utilized. Where do you fall with that? That's my first question. And then secondly, just what's next? For the Chargers, for Staley, what's next?
I mean, look, it really is a shame to see like Justin Herbert being wasted. It's funny because when he was at Oregon, he was known for, having a big arm, a cannon arm, being able to throw deep ball passes. And then when he's gotten to the NFL, and having Brandon Staley as his head coach, he has not really done a whole lot of that. His yards per attempt have gone down. They play very conservative at times. And look, I understand you don't have Mike Williams, although you still have Keenan Allen. We've talked to Austin Eckler. We've had him on this show, and we had conversations with him. And, he was a part of what they were doing. But remember, Austin Eckler was also frustrated with the situation of the running backs and how he was being treated. So there was a part of that. But ultimately, they had a good enough nucleus of a team, in my opinion, to not be as bad as they were. And to me, you got to start looking at what is it going on, and coaching is the first thing that you go to. As far as what they are going to be doing moving forward, you got to be curious about what it is that they want to do. I've already seen people try to put Ravens defensive coordinator Mike McDonald into the mix. They're also going to be looking for a GM. So Joe Horowitz, the Ravens player of development, I've also heard get in the mix. But there's one guy that does both things, Nat. It's one guy that does both things that is leaving.
Is he in New England right now?
Might be that guy.
Also on the hot seat?
Might be the guy in New England. What did Bill Parcells say? He buys the groceries and he cooks the food at the same time. Now, I'm not suggesting that that's something that you allow Bill Belichick to do at this juncture, because I do think that coaching, he got to do one or the other. I don't think that he should be able to do both. But if you are Bill Belichick and you look at this roster, because this is a good roster, do you say, I'm back? Or do you say, I'm not Southern LA, I'm not Cali, Texas type of dude, even though you are, in Massachusetts, but do you just say, no, I don't want to do it, I'm ready to ride off in the sunset and do some other things? Or do you say, this is my chance to ride off in the sunset the way I would like to? Because we know that Bill Belichick doesn't love the way that his team is playing right now and how they're going to end their season. There's a possibility for that, but it will be interesting to see where the Chargers move from this point out.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, and I really would like to know what is going to happen with all these coaches. I feel like, Bill Belichick has probably built up enough. Maybe even if it's time to move on from the Patriots, he just has built up such an impressive resume and name. I can't see there being, there has to be some interest for him. And then in terms of Brandon Staley, I mean, I don't think there's a head coaching gig up for him next, but he'll just probably land on someone's staff. No, of course not. But what do you think? Is he going to take a little time? Because, I mean, he was so snippy all year with the press. And I mean, I'm sure some of that is about knowing he's on the hot seat. So, I mean, what do you think happens for him next?
Look, some people are just not good head coaches. Some people are just much better coordinators. Yeah. And Brandon Staley could absolutely just fit into that category. It's possible that he goes back into being, linebackers coach, defensive backs coach, I don't know, and then work his way up back to defensive coordinator. But I do think that the resume of what he's built in terms of what he's done as a head coach should take him out of the conversation for a couple of years. Now, this is the NFL. We know the NFL loves to recycle guys. We know that they love to recycle specific guys. So it would not shock me in the least if at some point Brandon Staley gets another opportunity before a guy like, I don't know, Eric Bieniemy, or a guy like, I don't know, Steve Wilkes, because that's just kind of how these things go around here, right? But ultimately, I think that he's going to get another opportunity as a defensive coach, and that's how that's going to play out. But it will be interesting to see 2-3 years from now, will we be having conversations about Staley potentially being back in the head coaching mix over guys that have put in the work?
Yeah, something in common with Bieniemy and that Steve Wilkes guy you just mentioned. I can't quite
what could it be?
I can't quite put my finger on it, but anyway, let's move on, because there's been other NFL news, and I don't see a point to talking about a coach who is now out the door and their season is over.
Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget, you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.